Just got to have
Lesson learned.
sooner
Right.
for 3 times.
I know. I was off my game this week a little bit. I could feel it. So.
It's going to roll. Oops.
We are ready. We're getting ready.
I noticed you guys kind of quieted yourselves. This is Leo Beck Temple. We don't do that. You wait until we're like singing, at 100 decibels over you, and then you keep talking. We turn it up to 11, and then you keep talking. And then sooner or later, you kind of like decide to get with the program. I almost didn't recognize you people. Well, welcome to Shabbat Under the Stars for the first time this summer. It's great to have you all back. Let's enjoy welcoming one another. The words can be found at the top of page 10. Welcome one another the way the psalmist did way back when. Hinei ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good, how pleasant it is for us to be greeting this Shabbat together this way, in this place, with one another. Please join with us.
Hinei ma tov
Try that one more time. This time with a lot of you.
How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be
Together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to
be together on this day. Hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad.
Sing it like you mean it.
Shevet achim gam yachad. So it is so great to see so many faces and to see so many faces that we see on screen every single week. I'm looking at you, Hannah, because it's like I said it's Hannah in real life. I've never met Hannah, and now I've met her, and this is really exciting. So, but really, we all come from different places and different parts of our lives that may be really exciting, and yet other people may be coming from places before they came here that are stressful and scary, and all of these things that we get to come here together, and for at least the next hour, we can breathe and we can be here and be present in this moment. So I want to share this poem. It's a very short poem, but I invite you to just, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes, to feel how wonderful it is to be out here, outside, in this beautiful space. Yes, I know it may be a little bit cold, but Karen, you're warming it up. And, but we are here in this space, in this beautiful place that we get to call home. And this poem, I hope, will help us get centered and ready for Shabbat as we enter into this beautiful, beautiful day. Cars and their engines ramble on a few streets over, but beyond fading echoes, you hear nothing at all as the smell of baker's bread sweeps down the street where you stand. Overhead are rows and rows of draping lights that seem to call for celebration. But you see only setting skies, and your scar that has not healed, and the feeling that you've gone too far is all that you can feel. But as the sky closes in and the day escapes, I hope that you can see the lights that hang above you have only gotten a little bit brighter, and there is still plenty of time for you to make it home. Continue with Yedid Nefesh on page 344. Excuse me, page 10.
They're almost exactly the same, in that they're both numbers.
Strike one.
Yedid nefesh, hava rachaman, hava rachaman.
Meshochavtecha el retzonecha,
Sounds really beautiful. Let's take that from the top again. Yedid nefesh, hava rachaman. Yedid nefesh, hava rachaman, hava
רצונך אל רצונך ירוץ עבדך כמו היה ישתחווה אל מול הדרך ידי נפש הווה רחמה ושוכבתך אל רצונך ירוץ עבדך כמו היה ישתחווה אל מול הדרך ידי נפש הווה רחמה הווה רחמה ושוכבתך אל רצונך
The Sabbath bride awaits us. Let us welcome her with joy and with song. The words of Lecha Dodi can be found on pages 20 and 21. We're going to sing the first two verses on page 20 and the top and bottom verse on page 21. So that's verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 with all you got.
Those are the right pages.
Unless you find it on page 453. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Ishtiyan el hameyuchad Adonai echad hu shemo echad Shefut tiferet v'tehila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Likrat Shabbat mechubelcha Yihi mekor habercha Merosh mitenem betzura Sof ma'aseh v'machshavah tfilah Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Hitoreri, hitoreri Ki ba'orech uri ori Uri ori shi'edaveri Kevod Adonai alai tefila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei
Shabbat nekabela.
If you're able, please face the entrance to our chapel, and in your soul's eye, welcome her. Boi v'shalom atzeret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Please remain standing if you are standing. We're on page 28. While you're standing, I invite you just to take a moment to look, if you can, from out underneath this tent. This tent, most of you who have been around for a while know this tent didn't used to be here. Probably going to move it out again before too long. It needed to be here during COVID, right? We're able to do so much of what we do at the temple right here underneath this Ohel Moed, this little tent of meeting. Business, worship, study, morning, afternoon, and evening. So we need a little bit of protection from the sun, from the wind, from the rain. But if you can kind of peek your eyes out from underneath, take a look at this hillside, take a look at the fading daylight. Take a smell of the beautiful smells that come with being nestled against this hillside. The very first thing we're supposed to do after we pray Baruch Hu, as we just did, our call to worship, is a celebration of the changes in time, the changes in the season, the rotating of day into night, into day into night. We're supposed to take notice of all of this and express in our hearts and in our souls our deep gratitude for the order to it all, and also for the wonder to it all. All these things that we take for granted. The sun will set. The sun will rise. The plants will grow. We're supposed to take notice and acknowledge the miracle. And so that's what we do right after we officially begin prayer with Baruch Hu. First thing we do is take a look around. And of course, at this time of year, we're going to be doing it right out here for the next several months so that we can literally take notice of the very miracle that Ma'ariv Aravim, this next prayer in our prayer book, calls upon us to notice. The changing of day into night. And so, just in silence, whether you want to do it with your eyes closed so that you're feeling it, or if you want to open your eyes to take notice of time changing right before our eyes. Time changing right against this hillside, or back over that away where the sun is setting. Whatever will enable you to make your own Ma'ariv Aravim, your own expression of gratitude for the wonder and the order of it all. We're on page 34. I am here, I am now, asking when, asking how, only I, only thou, only one.
Fill my heart, still my soul. I am part of this whole. I will sing out my soul to the one. Shema.
Shem kevod malchuto leolam leolam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On the very appropriate page 40, we have the Micha Mocha, the reenactment of Sinai. And some of you were a part, either in person or on screen, just a little over a week ago when we reenacted the Sinai experience, as we do each year with the Chag of Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot, which is to be that moment where we reconnect with the Sinai experience, the receiving of Torah. Micha Mocha, of course, is about working our way there, right? Not quite at Sinai yet. About to do those 40 days and 40 nights of wandering and witnessing a miracle, the parting of the sea and the miraculous first few steps into liberation. As is often the case with our tradition, the story is for the most part about the guys, and a huge part of what actually happened was about the women. And so this beautiful poem, written for our teacher Rachel Adler, amazing professor over at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, written by Merle Feld, to help us get inside the experience that the women had, not only at Sinai, but that we continue to have over and over again. She wrote, "My brother and I were at Sinai. He kept a journal of what he saw, of what he heard, what it all meant to him. I wish I had such a record of what happened to me there. It seems like every time I want to write, I can't. I'm always holding a baby, one of my own or one for a friend, always holding a baby, so my hands are never free to write things down. And then as time passes, the particulars, the hard data, the who, what, when, where, why, slip away from me. And all I'm left with is the feeling. But feelings are just sounds, the vowel barking of a mute. My brother is so sure of what he heard. After all, he's got a record of it. Consonant after consonant after consonant. If we remembered it together, we could recreate holy time. Sparks flying." מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. on the bottom right-hand corner of your supplemental page. Let us pray for safety and embrace as the darkness comes to enfold us. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom.
V'ha'amitenu malkeinu l'chaim.
Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us not wrong from right.
Just your voices. On page 44, top of the page.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם. ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם. ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. turn to page 46, and if you're able, please rise. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Agi Tehillatech Ufi Agi
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
The Amidah continues through page 62. You can feel free to remain standing or to be seated whenever you're ready. At the bottom of page 62.
Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael.
This night where we're filled with all of the beauty we are creating together, where our souls are feeling so richly nourished. We take a moment in every one of these services to think of those in our circles of love and friendship, family, those who need a little bit of what it is we are collecting right now and creating right now. We pray a prayer for healing not because we believe that some magic incantation is going to deliver healing to each and every person whose name will be spoken here tonight or spoken in our hearts, but because we believe that this exercise has a way of healing, transporting, transforming us. It helps us to reach down deep into the responsibility that comes with reciting this prayer, to be deliverers of the light and healing and encouragement and love for which we pray in these moments. And so in a moment, we'll be joining together in song in the middle of page 253. But before we do so, I want to invite anyone who would like to speak aloud the name of someone in your personal circle you would like to include in our collective prayer for healing on this Shabbat to stand at this time. And when my eyes meet yours, you can speak those names aloud to our congregation. for all of them, for all of us, for all those who we name in our hearts. We'll join together in prayer. Middle of page 253. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Aleinu can be found at the bottom of page 282. If you're able, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו
Some special words to help us prepare for the recitation of Kaddish, words not found in the prayer book. These words of poetry were written by 20th century poet Abba Kovner. They're wrong, the scientists. The universe wasn't created billions of years ago. The universe is created every day. The scientists are wrong to claim the universe was created from one primordial substance. The world is created every day from various substances with nothing in common. Only the relative proportions of their masses, like the elements of sorrow and hope, make them companions and curbstones. I'm sorry, I have to get up in all modesty and disagree with what is so sure and recognized by experts, that there's no speed faster than the speed of light. When I and my lighted flesh just noticed something else right here, whose speed is even greater than the speed of light, and which also returns, though not in a straight line because of the curve of the universe, or because of the innocence of God. And if we connect all this to an equation, according to the rules, maybe it will make sense that I refuse to believe that her voice, his voice, and everything I always cherished, and everything so real and suddenly lost, is actually lost forever. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish prayer this evening, we remember especially our longtime congregant, Dick Gunther, husband of Lois Gunther, whom death has taken from us in recent days. We link his name with Ralph Bernstein, Lisa Blumberg, Sylvia Chasen, Lillian Crane, Jack R. Cutter, Amanda Archard-Falk, Anna Fish, Miriam Friedman, Charles Goldshine, Adalbert Bella Gutman, Alice Gutman, Etta Kurt, Thomas Cohn, Philip Coleman, Rosa Crew, Lillian Levin, Ayala Marks, Estelle Morrison, Edward Rosen, Saul Rosen, Benjamin Ross, Hannah Schwartz, Sanford Schwartz, Ivy Sherman, Nancy Siegel, Lucien W. Simon Jr., Hillel Isaiah Swiller, Sarah Wapner, Sam Wexler, Sonia Lemieux. Are there other names we should include? If so, please speak them aloud. Holding them all close in our heart, along with all those who we name in our hearts. We say, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous is an everlasting blessing. Together let us give thanks for the blessing of life with the words of Mourner's Kaddish, found on page 294. If you're able, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'almad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon u'v'yom echon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'isman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the giver of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and let us together say,
Amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. La 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 la. Ve'imru, imru, amen. Ve'imru, amen. Ve'imru, imru, amen. Please be seated. We'll give a little bit of love to the Friday Night Liftoff Band. Smokin'. I feel a little badly. Congressman, I'm delivering them to you all rowdy. We are delighted to have Congressman Brad Sherman here with us tonight. And I want to say a word of thanks before I briefly introduce the Congressman. Scott Abrams, who is a member of the Congressman's staff and has been my loyal and trusty companion in planning this evening. We were looking at dates. We were figuring out the contours of how this all should take shape. And Scott is a terrific partner to the Congressman and now a terrific partner to your rabbi as well. And I want to thank you, Scott, and welcome you here as well. A lot of you who live in the Valley are used to Representative Sherman being your congressman, getting some love from the longtime Valleyites. But because in recent years the redistricting took place, and of course that means that the lines get redrawn, and the congressman's district has been redrawn, and a lot more of us, myself included, and this temple included, are now a part of Congressman Sherman's district. And it is really wonderful, Congressman, that really as soon as that took shape, he reached out to us. I want to be really clear about the fact it's lovely that I'm sure there will be those times when we'll be reaching out to you and asking to partner with you on this, that, or the other thing, but this was at the Congressman's behest. He was the one who reached out and said, you know what? This congregation now sits inside my district. The congregants of this congregation now sit inside this district. I want to spend some time sharing thoughts with them, hearing questions from them, getting to build relationships with them. And so we are really, really delighted that you set the wheels in motion for this evening. He has served in the United States Congress for now 27 years. And his district has, of course, always included the San Fernando Valley, but now includes so much of the West Side as well. He is the second most senior Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So if any of that is sitting in your mind and your heart and soul, he is, obviously has great, great responsibility as regards foreign affairs on Capitol Hill. He's also been a stalwart supporter of the United States-Israel relationship. He is married to Lisa Kaplan Sherman, and they have 3 daughters, Molly, Naomi, and Lucy. We are delighted to have you as a part of our family on this Shabbat. Welcome, Congressman Brad Sherman.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Brad Sherman. I come from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. It is great to be here at Leo Beck Temple. Thank you, Rabbi. And as the Rabbi explained, I've spent the last 26 years representing most of the San Fernando Valley, and now the areas of Brentwood, Bel Air, the Palisades, the Sepulveda Pass area, and Malibu and Topanga have been added to my district. Thank you for recognizing Scott Abrams, who heads our district office, our constituent service office, and I want to put in a plug for his work. Imagine a federal agency makes a mistake. It could happen. Could affect you. Could be your Social Security check. Could be the IRS. You call Scott. He works very hard. He solves your problem. And then I, Brad Sherman, take the credit. It is an outstanding system. I want to focus on one thing that we're getting a lot of calls on. The passport office is for cocktail. It's crazy. Get your passport renewed when it's got 10 months left to go. If, however, something happens and you need to get your you call Scott, and then I already described the process. I'll give you, since so many of you are new constituents, I'll give you a little background about myself. I started my career as a CPA, and my friends who knew me well thought that I should find an occupation held in lower public esteem. I can see Sid's not laughing because he knows where I'm going with this. So, of course, I went to law school. 3 years of Harvard Law, 10 years of practice. I get together with some of the same folks. They say, Sherman, do you know what we think of lawyers? And then they said, but it's not low enough for you. They told me politics is not low enough for me. But California had an elected revenue commission. Then it was called the Board of Equalization, to which I was elected, and I became simultaneously a politician and a tax collector. Never have my friends been more convinced that the universe was unfolding the way it should. Six years later, a man named Tony Bielenson, who represented much of the valley in this area here and deserves a round of applause, announced his retirement from what was then a swing district that went all the way out to Thousand Oaks, where in that time there were actually Republicans, and Democrats were in a tizzy. How are we going to hold this seat without our popular incumbent? Being Democrats, they felt the best way to do it was to unite behind a tax collector, which was key to my success, because only with that occupation could I put up signs on Ventura Boulevard, send Brad to Washington, or he may come visit you. In any case, I've been there since 1996, and no, that wasn't my campaign slogan back in. I have served on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'll cover the Middle East just a little bit. And then, but you may have questions about Ukraine, Taiwan, Tigray, Sudan. Happy to deal with all of that. I have served also for 26 years on the Financial Services Committee. We had a little bit of a problem with the banking system. Happy to go into that. For those of you who are, my biggest accomplishment is a really obscure thing, but it dealt with $16 trillion, and that was solving the LIBOR problem. And I bet there's one person in the audience who knows what I'm talking about. Oh, two, three. And I've served from time to time on the Science Committee, where the issues we're talking about artificial intelligence, I've been talking about for really since the year 2000, and happy to go into those issues as well. Now, I know as I was walking in, a couple of you said, well, Brad, can't we spend an hour or so talking about everything that's going on in Washington? That is exactly what I'm going to do next month at our next telephone town hall. Many of you have had your dinners interrupted from time to time by my outgoing phone calls. But if not, you're going to want to dial in. To find out how to do that, you go to bradsherman.house, that's for House of Representatives, .house.gov, and you can sign up for our next telephone town hall. It's kind of like this, only it lasts over an hour, and you can be in your pajamas. So I hope I hope you'll join me then. This will be considerably shorter. I almost had to cancel tonight. As you may have heard, we had a little debt limit problem. And so I flew back to Washington on Monday, and I flew back here Thursday, and I'm glad to be here on Shabbat. There are problems with this deal. It will hurt real people to some degree. But if you look at the alternative, it has been understated what would have happened, because not only would you have had a 9% unemployment rate, 6 million jobs lost, and the suffering, the suicide, the drug abuse that inevitably goes with that, but it would have caused a worldwide recession. And people from Mawali to Managua to Manila, people who are living on $1 a day, when you take something away from them, death rates go up and disease rates go up. To give you a bit of background about myself, I've got a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood, Sierra Club, Human Rights Campaign, which is the LGBTQ plus organization, the Brady Campaign, a member of the LGBTQ plus Equality Caucus, the Pro-Choice Caucus. I co-chair the Israel Allies Caucus, and I've got a couple of Fs that I'm proud of. One's from the NRA, and the other is from the only organization, the only pro-crypto organization that rates members of Congress. And I'm happy to go into with you some of the disadvantages of crypto, not from the investor standpoint, but from society's standpoint. Not everything that can be done should be done. I have co-sponsored the Green New Deal and Medicare for All, because I see the incredible waste and confusion that goes with a system with hundreds of different rules as to who's covered for what and when. We spend almost double per capita what other industrialized countries spend. We have a great system for those who fit into the category and navigate the system, and you get better health care than anywhere in the world if you fit into that category. But maintaining health for a whole society is more than providing spectacular care in particular circumstances. Obviously, I've supported every effort to protect Roe v. Wade, to regulate it, to have it adopted as federal statute. I've introduced the Medical Travel Assistance to Protect Women's Rights Act to provide federal money to those who need to travel from one state to another. We are, of course, fighting to make sure that medical abortions continue to be available. And I could go into the host of reasonable gun control legislation that I've supported. As to foreign affairs, I can't tell you that I agree with everything the Israeli government is doing. I have not met an Israeli who agrees with everything the Israeli government is doing. But what's lost is that every rocket shot from Gaza is an attempt to kill a civilian. The fact that due to Iron Dome and a host of other things, they're not successful does not mean that it is not a war crime. We do need a two-state solution. We are as far from that as we've been in a long, long time. But with God's help, Rabbi, we will get there. With God's help, we'll not only have two states, but two states that get along. I pray for many things. And I know we could spend, half an hour talking about Iran's nuclear program, but I want to focus our attention a little bit on Saudi Arabia's nuclear program. Just because the Saudis are not Shiites does not mean that they are Zionists. And there is an effort by bin Salman to say, well, I'll send an ambassador to Israel, but I want to be able to buy every weapon system the U.S. has and a U.S.-Saudi nuclear cooperation deal with none of the safeguards in it. We have a deal with the United Arab Emirates. They signed up for every safeguard. They're not looking to create nuclear weapons. Bin Salman is just tongue-in-cheek said, well, if the Iranian, we want whatever Iran has. Well, we know what Iran once, he wants it too, and the only thing worse than Iran having nuclear weapons is Iran and Saudi Arabia having nuclear weapons. But you can see how, from a politician's standpoint, a U.S. president and an Israeli prime minister welcoming the king or crown prince of Saudi Arabia to Jerusalem boosts everybody's popularity way up, until you realize that a nuclear cooperation agreement with the United States that doesn't have the safeguards will lead to reprocessing, enrichment, and all the things that you don't want to see. Finally, I am the chief proponent in Congress of cooperative research projects between the United States and Israel. I started by writing the U.S.-Israel Energy Cooperation Agreement, but we have research cooperation agreements in energy and agriculture and water and medicine. And I do this for a number of things. First, you get twice as much research per taxpayer dollar because the Israelis match it shekel for dollar, or not, well, the exchange rate's 3 to 1, so it's dollar for dollar, if you will. But second, it's important for Israel to be known for something other than the place where there's conflict. If I were to, grab my phone, interrupt this conversation, say something happened in Israel, the first question will be, where'd the bomb go off? When we think of Israel, we shouldn't always be thinking of surahs, we should be thinking of science. And I think it's important to make Israel relevant to the 90+% of Americans who don't focus on foreign policy and couldn't find Amman on a map. They may not focus on foreign policy, but everybody's got an aunt with cancer. And the research results that save that person are as likely to come from Israel as any country in the world. So I guess I'll do that round, the rousing conclusion, but then we'll open it up to questions. One of the neat things I get to do as a member of Congress is, Rabbi, if you could come on up here, is to get one of the flags that's flown over the Capitol and give it to an organization that does outstanding public service for us here in the 32nd District. So I'd like to give you that. Stay here, though, Rabbi, you saw most of those folks out there were clapping, most of them. But we Jews...
Congressman. Check with us on Tuesday.
But we Jews are a skeptical people. And in spite of the fact that this is a house of faith, or a tent of faith, the skeptical ones out there are wondering how you can be sure that flag really flew over America's capital. You see, these people, especially the ones from the Valley, they've seen me at Target. They sell flags there. Well, folks, if you can't trust your local congressman, then perhaps it's wise that I brought a certificate of authenticity to restore faith to the doubters and to assure you this flag did indeed fly over America's capital. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Why don't I take a few questions? Easy questions.
Hold on just a moment. I'll make sure the microphone gets around for some questions.
Hi. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you.
I think you probably know this synagogue has a history of a very robust social justice
absolutely.
following.
Yes.
We're wondering, one of the aspects of our social justice program is saving democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're wondering if anything you think could be done in the Congress to improve such things as eliminating voter suppression and voter intimidation, such as passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or any of the other legislation that's been proposed, and whether there is any positive sign that comes out of the vote on raising the debt ceiling when you had a large number of Republicans, but even a larger number of Democrats voting together to approve it. does that indicate any willingness to adopt anything that supports voter integrity, voter rights, and eliminating voter suppression?
I'll give you some positive and negative to that. I don't see any Republican voting for the John Lewis Voter Rights Act. I don't think one. But it won't matter because there won't be a vote. The majority controls what comes up. Now, you saw that in the debt limit issue. Democrats said, hey, we want a clean debt limit. Why don't we get a vote on it? And there's a device called the discharge petition, and every single Democrat signed it, and 0 Republicans signed it. Had it been signed by 5 Republicans, there would have been an immediate vote on a clean debt limit. And yet I do think this deal does illustrate that you can at least get an overwhelming majority for not destroying the country. And I will give a little credit, actually more than a little credit, to Kevin McCarthy, because whenever a deal is being negotiated, you have to say, who benefits if the whole thing caves in? And politically, it would have been the Republicans. Why do I say that? Well, there are a lot of people who are Democrats and Republicans who watch things carefully, and they would have already picked a side, and nothing's going to change that. Swing voters, you'd like to think the swing voter is someone who's at the UCLA Research Library every day, listing 112 reasons to be a Democrat and 111 reasons to be a Republican. Not true. They're watching Wheel of Fortune, and they tune in. Okay, so what would have happened if this thing had? It would have been either a catastrophe or half a catastrophe for the U.S. economy. You can argue, I never want to find out. And if it had gone on for weeks or months, and then eventually maybe it gets solved. But that tanks the economy for well over a year. So you go into 2024, and the swing voter is not going to be able to say, well, 210 Democrats signed the discharge petition. They're just going to say, it's 2024, the economy sucks, my cousin's out of work, the president's a Democrat, I'm voting for the Republicans. So had McCarthy not bargained in good faith, had this thing blown up, it would have been bad for the country, but more bad for Democrats than Republicans. Knowing that, he did cut the deal. And once he cut the deal, it was obvious it was going to be passed. You have a deal endorsed. It prevents the entire country from caving in. It's endorsed by Biden and McCarthy. And frankly, it passed by a bigger margin than the margin you think, because you read the newspaper and you saw, okay, 300 and some voted for it. Over half the people who voted against it would have voted for it if their votes had been necessary. It's just this was their chance to say, well, damn it, I didn't like this, or I'm not going to, there is a overwhelming majority of the members of the House and Senate who don't want to see the whole country drop off the cliff. That's the positive. The negative is I can't say too much more positive than that.
Thank you for your long record of fighting for the environment, nature, animals, our beautiful planet. Can you imagine anything that would bring a bipartisan backing of protecting the planet from climate change and other environmental, species extinction and other inevitable environmental disasters unless there's really pretty much radical action that needs to be taken?
I think we have some Republicans who at least regard climate change as a problem. Denying that there is climate change or denying that it's human-caused is the first line of defense from somebody who might really believe, yeah, there is climate change, but it's really tough to deal with, and I'd rather lose the Maldives and a few hundred species than make those changes. I think where there is a relatively cost-free or low-cost way of contributing toward the planet, we can probably get some Republicans on board. Trying to get to redo the whole economy the way it needs to happen, and not just here. Remember, we're pikers compared to India and China. Changing U.S. policy is just the first step in changing world policy, but also developing the technology. You change the policy here, that creates the market. Once you build the millionth electric car, once you build the 10 millionth solar panel, it gets a lot cheaper. So it is important to do it here. And I wish I could tell you, and one advantage I have is that Republicans talk honestly with me, because if I repeat it, they'll just say he's a lying Democrat. I never even talked to him. And everyone in their constituency will realize that I'm a lying Democrat and he wouldn't have talked to me. So I know what they're thinking, and they have to win Republican primaries, and you don't realize quite, you can flip back and forth, not just Fox News and MSNBC. Go to OAN, and there's a world of right beyond Fox News. And you don't realize that because you're at Leo Beck Temple, and there's a range of opinion here, but it isn't the range of opinion you would get if we were co-hosting this Shabbat service with an evangelical church flown in from rural Tennessee. Then you would have a broader spectrum. So I get a chance to hang out with 434 of the most successful politicians selected from all over the country. This country is very divided. It's going to get more divided because of the news business. The news business used to be 3 television networks with Huntley and Brinkley and Walter Cronkite, all telling you what the facts were, honestly, paying for bureaus all over the world to gather those facts, and getting your eyeballs just to see what was happening. And then after Walter Cronkite told you what the facts are, you could argue about the Vietnam War. Different opinions, same facts. Now, the news business has discovered that opinion gets more eyeballs and is much cheaper. No matter how much you pay Tucker Carlson, it's still cheaper than having a bureau in Nairobi and another one in Managua. So, and opinion gets much more. And then, of course, you pick the TV channel that you agree with. But now you don't have to. Your phone will feed you from all over the world opinions, because opinions are cheaper than facts, and more interesting. That you agree with. And so your phone is pulling you away from those you disagree with. So I wish I could tell you. And then finally, the final arbiter. And I look, do foreign policy. I look at countries around the world. There's a tendency to think the U.S. is somehow, tendency to think that, human beings are not mammals and the United States is not a country. Well, we're a country like other countries, and you can study other countries and see that problems. And so you look at Pakistan, for example. It's kind of maybe still to some degree for a while a democracy. The last institution that has any credibility is the court system. And now I see a shredding of the credibility of the court system. And it worries me because, look, I accepted Gore v. Bush. They stopped the counting. It was outrageous. I accepted it. That's the court. That's the deal. I don't know whether, if God forbid, there's a presidential election decided by a few hanging chads, whether you're going to get agreement. And I know that the Supreme Court saying, well, this is the answer, is not going to wash with a lot of Americans the way it barely did in the year 2000. I don't know if there's another question.
I'll take another couple of questions, and then I want to make sure that everybody knows Congressman Sherman wants to get a chance to meet you. And so there's going to be an Ordeg Shabbat tonight as well, an opportunity to continue the conversation more informally there. Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for being here. This is more in the way of advice. I knock on a lot of doors of low propensity voters, many of whom don't know who represent them. It's mainly in 27, Garcia's district.
I know that district
yes.
well. As a matter of fact, parts of that district were my district.
I know. I was in Granada Hills.
Yes.
Go around. Do you have a good opener when someone actually does answer the door and goes, I'm not really into politics. I'm just going to vote how my spouse votes. Or, I really don't want to talk about it.
Let's hope their spouse is voting the right. You can catch people at an inconvenient time. You can point out, look, I got on my car, I've walked all the way here to your front door. Can you give me a minute? And then you've got 1 minute, but you don't have much longer than that. Often the way those lists are drawn up, you're talking to somebody who will vote the way you want them to vote. At least the computer thinks so. That's why the computer sent you to their door. It's just a matter of getting them. And, God, this is important. It's going to affect this or that. It's going to affect your street. And if you need, back in the old days, it was a ride to the polls. Now, most people just have to mail it in. Point out to them they don't even need a postage stamp. And I wish I had a perfect answer for you, but you've got to try to get a minute at a time. And hopefully get them to spend a few minutes filling out the thing and mailing it. Yeah.
You have time for two more?
Two more.
Two more it is.
And then I get cookies. Sid?
First, I'd like to say that I've known Brad since the days he first started running, and I was at a fundraiser for you the first time and the second time also when Feinstein, senator, came to ask people just vote for you. What I really want to comment on is the first question that was asked about voting, because I think it is so critical. It's not the federal government that is involved with any of these bad laws. It's all the states. The states are the worst basis for passing laws preventing people from voting. They are the states, the governors from states. If we don't recognize that we have to have people in the states start voting Democrat, we're going to get a real loss of our democracy. To illustrate just one extreme, it's even in the states, the Board of Education from the states are the ones who say you can't have a censorship on what books you can read. So if we want to get anywhere, we've got to get the Democratic Party involved in states so we can elect Democrats who will counter all these laws that prevent people from voting.
I agree with you, and I want to point out from the gentleman who asked about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, there is one little silver lining, and that is nothing makes a person, or at least some people, more willing to vote than somebody's trying to take the vote away from them. That's particularly true for African Americans who have seen what has happened in this country, who can visualize John Lewis being hit over the head. And it is by no means clear that the obstacles that were put up in Georgia and elsewhere were not counterproductive. So every attempt to suppress the vote, the uglier and the more notorious it is, it suppresses some votes. It also causes some votes. And so that's, but it's, it's obviously unfair to have to wait in line 3 hours in an African-American part of Atlanta in order to cast your vote. But if anything would motivate somebody to be there, it's understanding why it's happening.
I apologize in advance for the fact that everybody did not get a chance to ask the question.
Well,
that
they're
they'd
all
like
going to call into my telephone town hall.
Well, I also wanted to point out, though, that this is why I didn't have you calling on the folks, because I figured, let them not vote for me. Then, so please vote for me. But I didn't want to make it. So.
Hi. I've been hearing an awful lot about the dissolution of no-fault divorces. Yeah. I've been hearing a lot about like challenging no-fault divorce laws in the South, and sort of step ahead thinking by far-right Republicans getting rid of IVF or just really challenging birth control on a really fundamental level. I know that the priority right now is making sure that abortion laws aren't just too extreme, but I'm wondering if this is on your radar or any of your colleagues' radar. It's just profoundly concerning, and I feel like it would be something that sort of creeps up in a longer strategic plan on the far-right's part.
And look, I'm old enough to remember when you went through this dance to get a divorce of one party agreeing that they were at fault and emotionally, whatever. It ultimately, I don't think that any state will go beyond some hassle, some delay period, some month delay, some required mediation that by that point is a waste of time, perhaps for most. This is not a country where we want to make it impossible for. And I say Alabama is not a state where they want to make it impossible, but they may make it a bit more difficult. I think the courts would step in if it was beyond that level. And I'll say this: when the Republicans overplay their hand, they lose elections. We saw that in Kansas. I rarely expect to be on the winning side of a statewide election in Kansas. I think anything that would make IVF impossible or make it nearly impossible to get a divorce would backfire. But this will be fought out in the states. I don't see any of this at the federal level, although I do see the federal courts perhaps getting involved if they were. And yeah, it's hard to have that much faith in a federal court that has just overturned Roe v. Wade by more than one vote.
I want to thank the Congressman for joining us here tonight.
Thank you. And I do want to point out that on the political side, I am very involved in congressional races around the country. It is not impossible that Donald Trump is reelected president, in which case control of the House of Representatives is the only thing that prevents you from calling a Toronto-based immigration attorney. So I hope very much that we have a good president, but by God, we need a good House of Representatives.
The Congressman will be joining us at Oneg Shabbat. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your question for everybody to hear, you'll have an opportunity to engage in conversation with him. Thank you for opening this conversation with our congregation.